told you, yeah, we moved to a house that my friend had, and we're renting a house.
Oh, you're not at your mom's now?
No, yeah. So we're in like a 2 bedroom, 1 bath house, like a super old house, like 1920s house or whatever, right? So yeah,
Oh,
we're staying
shit.
here for the time being. Um,
Still
yeah.
got a little privacy then. That's pretty
Yeah.
nice.
Oh yeah, yeah. The wife definitely likes it a lot more. That's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah. Lucy's
It's
definitely like, thank God,
yeah. I mean, I think
So you
being
like living with your
around the
parents?
in-laws
Yeah.
family, that's always a little brutal. It's like just hard to relax when that's the situation, you know.
Dude, especially at my mom's house, man, there's always like some crazy ass thing fucking happening or whatever. Someone screaming and upset about something. I don't
Yeah.
know. But it, in a weird way, it was also kind of like hard for me to like, I guess like leave again. Like I went through this like emotional thing where I was like, I don't know, I don't want to like leave my mom. Like I worry about her sanity and
Right.
just the act of being able to do stuff around the house,
Yeah,
and
but you're in the area now,
yeah,
so
I mean I'm like 10 minutes away, so
yeah.
it's not that big a deal. But I had gone through this whole thing where I was like, I can't move too far away. And Lucy's like, we're not going anywhere. Like we're just going down the road pretty much. And I'm like, that's too far. I gotta be like a house away just in case.
Yeah.
And she was like, you're crazy. And I'm like, yes.
I am.
Just a good old mama's boy. Can't help it.
Yeah. But no, it's been good, man. We've been here for about a month now, and we're still moving shit in, getting situated. We got a couch finally. That's cool.
Yeah.
We
Crucial.
gotta get all the furniture and stuff again.
Yeah, you got to make it your own.
Mm-hmm.
That was like a 3 to 4 month journey just to get my place set up in a way that it was like, all right. And my place is literally a room, but you just kind of got to get the little touches that help it feel like it's yours. Otherwise, you just feel like you're, in somebody else's place, and you just feel displaced,
Oh, totally, man. That's what I was telling Alvin. Like, we came in here and like the walls were like the living room was like this weird dark blue gray. This room I'm in right now is orange, which is fucking crazy. I don't know. And
Yeah, it's
then
kind of weird.
the kitchen's red, the bathroom's purple, the bedroom it was like a light blue, the hallway's yellow. I'm like, what the fuck, dude? Like, so we're like, whoa, well, we want to do some painting. So, yeah, I got the paint. We painted the bedroom so far in the living room, and that turned out nice, and it looks good. We're gonna paint the rest of the place though too. But I went through this whole thing where I got the rollers, I got everything. I was like, yeah, and started rolling some paint on. I'm like, this sucks. Like this sucks, dude. And at first I'd come up with this idea where I'm like, oh, the walls are weirdly like old textured. I wanted them like flat, like nice. And so I tried to skim coat it, and that was a fucking nightmare. Like, I was like, oh my God. Like, apparently I suck at skim coating. And I watched like some YouTube thing. Literally, it's like drywall mud, and you just spread it
Have
across.
you ever done it before?
No.
You mean you suck at the thing you've never done before?
I've never done it ever in my life.
Do better, Pat. Like,
yeah.
know how to do everything. Please.
Yeah, I was like, oh, dude, I'm gonna fucking crush this, And I I did it. It looked like shit. I sanded it all down, which was a nightmare. And then I did it again, and then that looked like shit. I showed up the next day; it was still wet. So then I just scraped it off the wall, and it was just like this huge mess. And I'm like, you know what? I don't even fucking care. And then I'm like, I'm just gonna paint it. And I tried to paint it with the rollers, and it was like, dude, this is going to take like a year. So I went out and got a sprayer, and I'm like, I'm just going to spray it, man. Fuck it, But like, if you spray, you have to literally cover everything. Like, otherwise the overspray drops on literally everything, and it's a disaster. So I'm like, holy shit. There's like no...
From experience now?
Brother, there's no easy way to fucking paint a room, right? Like, yeah, I'm like, I hate this shit. But I will say it looks so nice when it's done. Like, the sprayer method looks really nice. It's just, yeah, it's a bitch. It's a bitch. But we got it set up though, man. We got things going on here, and we got the little living room with the fireplace. I have yet to start, put a fire in there, but it's coming. And I got some Christmas lights I put up outside, make it a little festive.
On the
So,
gutters and stuff, or like?
well, I got gutter clips, so I'm gonna do that at some point. But it's been like terribly cold. Right now I just did it around the fence line and up to the entryway of the door. So
Yeah.
yeah, it looks
Right.
nice. Yeah.
Well, it's probably time to introduce the audience to our buddy here. We've been talking for 6 minutes.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
No, I like it. Cold opening. Welcome, everyone. Hey, Caleb. Hi.
Hey.
It's been a long time.
Been a very long time. Since the last
Yeah,
time we did this, like 3
Just so
months
everyone
ago,
knows, my
4 months?
computer is shit to bed.
Why?
A month
What
ago.
happened?
I don't know what happened. Just every now and then it gets this like thing where it doesn't want to start up, and I have to basically shake it because I think it's like a loose,
What?
maybe like loose RAM or something. So like pick it up, put it down. I shook it. It started up, then it immediately crashed. Right?
Oh my god.
Like okay, I'm gonna take it to the Geek Squad, have them check it out.
Yeah.
Of course, take everything down, take the box to Best Buy. What happens as soon as I get there?
It
They
works.
start it up. It works, right? So now I had no clue what's going on. I'm like, okay, well that's weird. So they gave me some like ideas as far as, hey, maybe take it back home. Maybe your power supply is bad. So all these things that I'm just like figure out myself. So I was like, all right, fuck it. Brought it back home, plugged it up, didn't work again. Like immediately didn't work. So I was like, all right, that's fucked up. Put it down for a day. Came back, started it again. It's been working ever since. So
what the fuck?
yeah,
That's weird, man. That's weird.
So yeah, I don't know what's going on with it, but it's just like it's so annoying every time you like have a problem and you take it to like a mechanic, IT, a doctor, and like everything's fine. It's like no, this isn't how it was. I'm not hypochondriac. So
no, anyway, I feel you.
That's where it does make you feel crazy though.
Right? It's like come on, like act up.
Yeah.
Start fucking around so we can find out.
I know. Mine's been causing a little bit of issues from time to time now too, and I'm like, oh god.
Oh god. And you need that stuff to do work because you're remote now.
Yeah. I mean, that's it is one of the problems. Yeah. Lately, I've been using After Effects, and it just like fucking like crashes. Like it'll just like freeze, and then my screens will go black, and then it'll come back, and then there's all these error messages. And then I'm like, what the fuck? And like,
oh god!
From time to time, it'll just like both screens will just go completely black, and then it'll come back. And I'm like, okay, what is that? Like, I don't know.
Just need a quick breather.
Yeah, I don't know, man.
It's a timeout.
Yeah, just need to catch his breath. He'll get back up there.
Well, I'm honestly surprised that my computer worked because when I was moving from Ventura to here, I literally dropped it on the floor. Like, the whole box was sitting on a shitty plastic white table, and I tried to move the table over. The legs kicked out from it, and the whole box just went wham! And it like exploded on the floor. And I was like, oh god. I'm like, I'm fucked. Like I'm done for. And I like picked up the pieces and put it all back together. Luckily the inner guts were not everywhere, right? But I powered it on and it just worked. And I was like, oh, okay, great. So now I have like duct tape holding shit together. Fucking yeah, dude. $5,000 computer explodes on the ground. Yeah. Oh my god.
Yeah, that's what you want to see.
Yeah. I was like, cool. I mean, at the time, the computer cost more than my Xterra, right? I bought the Xterra for $2,500. You know what I mean? Like, yeah.
Man. Oh, those are some. That's back in the day, bro.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Pat, do you want to introduce yourself to the audience before we get going? Tell them how you know us and where you are.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, my name's Pat. I've known Caleb and Alan. Oh God, I don't even know how long it's been now. 20 years or so. We went to college together. Met at some parties.
Selling everyone drugs.
Not me, dude. I don't do that. I don't do that, bro.
Nice Christian boy.
Yeah, I'm just a good fella. Yeah, never had a drinking problem ever. You know, never touched the sauce. Not me.
Not you.
No. You know, yeah. I known you guys for a long time. Graduated school, got out of school, realized my life was going nowhere, which was awesome. I mean, we could go for hours right on the journey, but yeah, ended up migrating to LA and reconnecting with everybody and blossomed from there. And yeah, I've been in LA for like 10 years off and on, and then Ventura, California for 3 or 4, met my wife and moved from there to Nevada for a little bit, and now here in Illinois. Originally from Illinois, so
full circle.
Yeah. We'll see if I make it back out to California way or.
Tell you what, it was a task getting you out the first time.
Yeah.
Second time, man, you didn't wanna come,
bro. It's the first time was rough. That was a whole experience in itself, right? Moving up north and being on like a marijuana farm. That was kind of intense.
I forget that's a part of your life too.
I still remember picking you up from the bus station. First of all, you were like the thinnest I'd ever seen you.
Oh yeah,
you had lost like crazy weight. And,
100 weight.
But you smelled terrible. You had the worst BO I'd ever encountered, and I was just like, "You rode the bus all the way down, smelling like this?"
Oh, dude,
it was intense. I was like, "Damn, what? You just never showered while you were out on that fucking farm?"
Yeah, bro. Like, because we had like limited water in a water tank, and the whole thing was like you can't have a shower, right? So it's like, yeah, I went like 6-some months with no shower. I bathed once in like a lake. You know what I mean? Like that didn't really go all that well. And it's just like it doesn't. You can't really like you don't scrub it down. You know what I mean? Like whatever. It's just a lake water.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I still remember to this day. Like I had never been homeless in my life, right? Thank God. And obviously I was riding the train with a backpack. That's all I had was a backpack, right? And these like shitty clothes I've been wearing for days.
Yeah.
Looked rough as hell. And
I mean, you looked great, honestly. You had like color from working in the fields.
Yeah, I mean, I was like fucking working out, 18 hours a day. I felt like, chopping wood and you name it, I was doing it.
You were just dirty.
I was very dirty. Yeah, but I was on the bus and we stopped off at a Burger King, and I was like, oh, okay, and they're like, the guy was like, you guys can get us something to eat. And I literally like was in line and I pull out like a handful of change. That's all I fucking had was change, right? And I'm like trying to count like, okay, here's a dime, a nickel. And the guy behind me was like, hey man, this is on me. All right. Like and I'm like, no, dude. I was like, I got money. Like I'm good. And he's like, no, seriously, it's all right. And at that point I was like, holy shit, I'm a smelly homeless man now. Like I had no home. I was stinky. I was like, oh man, life has gone drastically different.
You really edged that homeless life. And just so the audience knows, like usually your beard's down to like your stomach, so it's like, when you came down, it was way down there to your belly button.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I was like, what the fuck happened to me here? So yeah, then definitely had to jumpstart back into the whole.
And that was like before weed was even like, I mean, it was legal-ish in California, but it was still medically legal, but not fully legal.
Yeah, that was on some the page.
Like shadiness to the whole.
You guys are hiding.
Oh yeah. I mean, definitely, if like we would have got caught, we would have been like 5 years prison. You know what I mean? There was like helicopters looking for grows, and the shit was like
would have been federal, not.
Yeah.
Federal crimes.
It would have definitely been a federal crime, and I would have went to prison like for it for
but
sure.
This is all hypothetical. None of that actually happened.
Correct. Yeah, not a lot of people know about the history of that, and I've always been so secretive about it, but now I'm just like, I like whatever. Like
it's
it was
forever,
something.
yeah.
it was something I did. I wasn't like totally proud of that, but at the same time, like I lived some
Such a unique
experiences.
experience.
Oh yeah, man. Like not a lot of people can say they did what I did, right? And then was able to go to LA and be welcomed with open arms with my friends, and then build a career from there. Like I don't know. Sometimes it's empowering to think back and say, like, I started this career with like a backpack and some like old smelly clothes. You know what I mean? Like, and blossomed from there. I got super lucky to be connected, and I still, Caleb. I mean, like, that's always a great story too. Is like my first day on the job, and literally calling out because we had gotten hammered the night before. Like we gotten so drunk that Caleb was like, "Oh, dude, we're not going to be able to make it in. There's no way." And he calls in and he says, "My car won't work." And I'm like, "Okay," so we just stay home, because we had too many tequila shots the night before celebrating, and then we go out there the next day, like, all right, first day on the job, and this fucking car doesn't actually work. And I'm like, oh God. And so then we had to ride bicycles from fucking Echo Park to
I remember that.
Del Rey.
I remember that.
Miles away. And I'm like, wait, what?
I was like, you got this, Pat.
I was like, oh my God. I'm like, this is fucking crazy.
I was like, I've done it a few times. It's not that bad.
Yeah.
But it was pretty bad.
It's a good thing. First day on your job, you show up sweaty, out of breath.
Yeah, exactly.
Late, possibly because you're biking instead of driving.
Yeah, we made it on time. I think. Yeah, it was ridiculous.
But it's actually like it's so much worse coming back at the end of the day. Like that was what was brutal because it's like more. It's not like uphill, but it's like vaguely more uphill the whole way.
Yeah.
Like you're just because you're going out to the ocean, so it's like, there's a slight drop off almost the whole way, and then coming back, and you're already tired from doing it in the morning.
Well, and also to mention, you have a full day of work.
Yeah.
It's not ideal at all. Yeah, especially on your first day of work. You know what I mean? It's not. Yeah.
Yeah, and that was before they even had that. What is it? The orange line that has out here, the blue line, whatever.
I think it's a purple one.
Takes. Purple, yeah. That wasn't even established, so we couldn't. That wasn't even an option. It's just like it was fucked.
Oh my God. Good.
Well, I'm glad you didn't get fired because you being on got me into my first After Effects job. I mean, you taught me. You're my first After Effects teacher, actually. I love telling everyone. You just taught me everything I know.
Yeah. Well, that never worked for me. Yeah. Hire my friend who needs a job, and he taught me all my awesome skills. And they're like,
taught me everything.
No, like, this dude sucks, dude. Like, we're not hiring him. Yeah. I know.
Oh, shit, man.
Well, that was also an amazing just series of events for a while of just getting fired and having you guys.
I think we followed Caleb for a while, and I'm like, wherever Caleb went, I went.
Yeah, you're trailblazing there for a minute, Caleb. But it was always like, okay, get Caleb got a job, got one of us in there, Caleb gets fired, one of us gets back.
Yeah.
They're literally like, we should just hire one of his roommates. They do the same stuff.
Yeah.
Caleb, we always wondered, like, would you ever stop hooking us up? Like, I think after the third or fourth time, I was like, Caleb's never going to hook any of us up with a job.
Yeah, for real.
No, I mean, it was fine. It was just kind of goofy. It was like a series of events.
Super goofy.
Like, what is happening?
Yeah, I know. Hey, man, it was all for the best. It was all for the best.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like, everything worked out. And so much of that was, like, circumstantial weirdness that just kind of, like, forced me out or however it worked. But,
yeah.
So just good times.
Just good times right there. A little stress, but good times all around.
Yeah. But none of us after getting laid off or Caleb getting laid off, you didn't go back and off with the CEO, unlike our new hero, Luigi Mangione.
Oh,
now be careful how you phrase that.
Yeah.
Oh no, dude, I'm out there. I'm out of the closet. I'm like, this guy, like, I mean, we can get deeper into it later, but Pat, have you been following this?
I have been following it. Yeah,
Yeah, it's hard to miss.
I mean, yeah. In all honesty, too, it's like, okay, I understand that people like look at him as like this like beacon of hope almost, right? But at the same time, it's like no way, shape, or form do I ever want to like celebrate something that is like so on murder, right?
Uh-huh.
But there's always the but. You know what I mean?
I
Like,
have that butt in there.
but
There's a massive but.
yeah, I mean, like the amount of awareness that has been risen because of it is outstanding, right? It's terrible to think that something so drastic had to come to this in order for people to finally be like, oh yeah, by the way, our healthcare system is garbage. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, we've been saying this forever.
Yeah, I mean, for me, this has been like a thing in the back of my head for so long. It's just like, it's like, sure, you can say condolences to his family and his children or whatever, but like at the end of the day, like to act surprised or to act like this type of thing shouldn't have happened or wouldn't have happened,
right?
Is a denial of reality. And like a lot of the coverage for me has been so frustrating that, like, because you see it on the internet, like people are like giddy, they're just like, oh yeah, like fuck yeah. And it's like, well, you have to ask yourself, why do people have such a voracious appetite and like that kind of response to something like this? And then the media coverage, any level of mainstream media, they act confused. And that's the part that pisses me off. You're not curious why that's the reaction. Instead, you start wagging your finger and you start saying like, oh, what's wrong with these people? And it's like, I'll tell you what's wrong. You push everyone to such extremes. You exploit the masses on such a profound level. You have a healthcare system that's designed to profit and exploit people. You don't treat people like human beings.
Right.
So therefore, when we get giddy about the idea of, oh, finally, one of these oppressors, which is basically what you are if you're in that situation and you're designing a system that exploits people, gets got, and then all of a sudden everyone goes, oh, this isn't like all of these distractions. I've been so pissed off at politics for the past fucking however many months because it's just like, oh, the trans people, the fucking all these stupid distractions to keep you mad at things that don't fucking affect your life. And now for this like class consciousness to occur because of somebody taking action into their own hands. And it's like, yeah, you can condemn murder, but when you live in a system that doesn't care about you and basically like you're a stat, you are like, it is a violent system against you. Like,
oh, for
you
sure,
are
dude.
oppressed in a way. Like, it's literally like all they care about is their bottom dollar. So it's like you're getting it from every fucking corner. So like, the reaction is very reasonable to be like excited when you're a part of a system that is basically psychologically, financially, like mentally, every angle is getting exploited.
Oh yeah, I mean, they say the number one cause of bankruptcy in our nation is medical bills. And I mean, like, there was that chart that came out that was like looking at the profit margins, right, of these major insurance companies. Literally, United Healthcare is at like 40% higher. You know what I mean? You're talking like, or I'm sorry, way more than that. It's like, their profits were like $40 billion, right? Like, how is that even like logically okay? How is this okay on any level to have a profit margin be so high? And when the profits, are gained from literally denials of people requesting
limiting their healthcare access.
Yeah, I mean, and that's coming not only from the patient that needs the help, but the doctor that puts it out there to say like, hey, like we need this operation or this medical, medicine for them or anything, anything on that level, and then to be denied because of the profit margin.
Well, did you hear they had a knowingly faulty AI that was directly denying access that doctors would request specifically? It had a 90% like failure rate in terms of just like, and they just left it going because they're just like, well, it's this whole thing. It's like, I'm not accountable type of thing. It's like when you reach out to these type of companies and you need to talk to somebody and you can't, and then they just keep misdirecting you to other places. It's just like,
man.
It's such a fucking piece of shit, disgusting thing that you set up. And like,
oh, dude, like I
and
fucking
you did that.
hate.
You as a CEO are directly responsible for more deaths than anybody, you know?
Well,
and
the
then you got
insurance
motherfuckers
is.
like Josh Shapiro out here being like, oh, well, violence is never the American way. Have you seen this meme where it's literally he's saying this and then he's signing rockets that he's sending off to Gaza to fucking kill, children? You talk about the
That's
media coverage of these things, and they will rationalize things and basically go like, oh, well, like whatever, try to like move past it and justify it. And then you've got this singular act, which people are like, yes. And then the media is still being like, no, 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 nope.
I mean,
Is he
it is.
crazy? And it's like, no, this system's crazy.
It is one
He's
thing I
sane.
think that Republicans and Democrats can both agree upon and say, yes, there is a direct problem with our healthcare industry, right? And I think, if anything, this, even the left has been like on this topic for so long. I think it's a very big eye opener for many conservatives or who identify as conservative to say, oh yeah, well maybe it's not okay for CEOs to make $40 billion off of our fucking, our health problems. And you know that everyone in the US knows of a family member, if not them, that has had an issue and being denied care, and seen what that does, I mean, I have my own stories, I'm sure everybody does, on, where their family members were sent because insurance wouldn't cover it, or what they would actually be able to do for your loved one. How many people would still be alive? I think there was that report, right, that said how many lives we could save if we, switched over from a different program,
Well, the
and
stat, I
God,
believe it's like 65,000 people a
yeah,
year die from lack of health care.
yeah,
So that's more than one person that was shot
yeah, yeah,
over it.
yeah.
But
No, totally. And so, it is hard to, I think, at times, like you say, like have that understanding of like, well, we know murder's bad, and it just paints that picture of like, yes, the guy was a family man. I feel terrible for the wife and the children. God, is that terrible? I don't want to like praise that, but also it's like, dude, like you had your hand directly in the fucking devil's pot of like, you knew what you were doing.
But
Like,
also, like, what else is going to change it?
right,
Like, I'm
right,
not condoning violence, but at the same time, what the fuck do you expect to happen if you
right,
consistently ignore, like, the plea of the masses where people are just like, give us something? It's like,
right.
why can't we have one nice thing? Instead, you're being exploited at every corner. You talk about healthcare. I think that's just the knife up against your neck, but you're literally like, nobody has, like not nobody, but like a good portion is living from paycheck to paycheck. You have no security blanket. You can
Right.
barely get a fucking house. Like all of these levels of just like fuck you, and then
Yeah.
you hear about these CEOs who make 400 times more than like all of
Oh
their
yeah.
employees, and you're just like, well, what do you expect? How are people supposed to feel about a system like this?
Totally.
And to me, like the healthcare is just the most obvious one that everybody has a story of
Yep.
how it's directly affected somebody they love and care about.
Yep. Yep.
yeah, that's something that's been kind of bugging me too. That was like, well, there's been two things that's been bugging me, but excuse me. Just to kind of go back to what Pat was saying, like, yeah, he's this guy, he's CEO, he's a family man, his family's like been hurting, but and that's how like the media's been
Right.
like talking about it. But it's like, well, okay, so we just said that 65,000 people a year die, and I'm pretty sure a good handful of them, like, they're also family men.
Yes.
Their moms, their wives, their sisters, like all these people, but it's like they never. We have a fucked up way of like thinking about violence, right? Because like we all understand the more visceral, like gun to the back, shoot a guy down in the street. Like, yeah, that's more visceral and like easy to pick up. But like when you got a guy who's signing off effectively on the deaths
Yeah.
of tens of thousands of people, and Bill Burr said it best too because he's been talking about it. He's like, yeah, he's not pulling the trigger, but he's like,
Yeah.
he's just as bad, if not worse. He's like,
He is a designer of policies that directly choose who lives or dies, and that design choice is not made to help people. It is
exactly.
made to
It's strictly
profit.
like bottom line stuff. So it's like how evil is that? Like I didn't shed a tear for Bin Laden when they got him. You know, I'm sure I wouldn't have shed a tear for like Hitler. Now I'm not saying he's like as bad, but like, bro, you start killing tens of thousands of people just for the mere profit. Like you're pretty much up there. You're not a good person.
And to act like we're above violence as like an American people, like, is so fucking condescending too. Because like
Oh yeah.
you, as the government, commit violence across the like, entire world. You're perpetrators of like crimes all over the place. We fetishize violence in our media. Like pretend like all of a sudden because it was a CEO and it was targeted and everyone's like, yeah, like all of a sudden you're like, we are not this. We're clutching your pearls and pretending like this is not what Americans are. And it's like, no, this is exactly who you've made us. Like you
we
did this,
are that.
and you're doing it. Like,
Yeah. That's
what
true.
do you expect? It's
once
crazy.
we start commodifying human lives, like we became that for sure. Like we don't care about your well being, your education, like what you do. If you get starved to death in the street, like
I mean, and at what point is that like playing the role of God, right? That's always the fucking, that's like one of the arguments, you know, from the conservative side of things is like, you know, you talk about abortion or whatever. Oh, you know, you can't play the role of God. And, you know, it's like, well, okay, so then we live in a capitalistic society where these insurance programs are set up to fucking just rape and murder all these people, right? And then they're like, whoa, well, I mean, it's okay because he's a CEO and it's a capitalistic fucking format. You know what I mean? Like, fuck you. You know, like, are you kidding me? Like, these people are the ones deciding whether or not I live or die because of a profit margin. No.
Yeah.
The fascinating thing too is like this has transcended red blue. Like this really hasn't been like as much of a
Right.
you know, conservative versus liberal
That's what
type of
they're
thing.
all mad.
It's
Everyone's
been
mad.
yeah. I mean, you look at like Ben Shapiro's. Have you been hearing about Ben Shapiro's fucking like comment section roasting him on his fucking terrible takes?
Yes.
And then he's trying
Which
to
is
go to
lovely.
war with Bill Burr, and it's just like, and it just exposes his hypocrisy in his own mind. And he's such a little weasel. And
He's
like,
such a little weasel.
anytime somebody's wagging their finger at people for like having an emotional, visceral response to this is to me the most condescending and like shows how out of touch they are and out of sync with the zeitgeist, you know, like. And I'm just glad that there is something finally that the two sides can kind of like cross the aisle and go like, wait a second. Yeah, it is about this class, there's literally a system up here where the rules don't apply to you. It's the ruling, you know, the ultra wealthy. It's like we've seen it time and time again. So when you have something like this and you can call it vigilante justice, it's like, well, again, I'm just like, how are you surprised? How are you going to pretend like you couldn't see this coming? And to lecture anybody about this, to me, is dishonest when you have a system designed to exploit.
Agreed, 100%. I mean, I think, you know, who is it? Kyle Kalinske, you know,
Boy, Kyle.
Yeah, he made a very good, you know, statement pretty much saying like, you know, it's okay for, you know, we deem murder as this thing, right? Like as like, this is terrible. Oh my God. Like, you know, you're a terrible, terrible person. But then we appoint these so-called people that are supposed to be like, you know, helping us out but they're wearing the suit and tie, right? So they dress the part, right? How are they any better than the lower class murderer, so to say, right? When they're murdering how many tens of thousands of people, right? It's like just because they dress the part, they look, you know, nice and presentable, makes it okay for us as a society to say, well, it's business. You know, it's like they're nothing more than just your average day mobster at that point. You know, like
we're nothing but stats to them. You know.
Oh
like,
yeah, it's terrible.
It's not true. You're also money.
Families. Yeah,
yeah.
We're a way to gouge money at every possible angle. But it's funny, you don't see their same like righteous indignation in terms of just like murder. If you look at the coverage of like even like George Floyd and things like that, they don't cover it from the same angle. Like it is so fucking weird to sit there and watch them talk about how like they're better than you and they have like this moral foundation over you, and you really can't have that type of response. Like It was like NPR. I was listening to like left, right, and center on the way over somewhere. It was yesterday, I think, and they literally spent like 20 minutes talking about like that, and be like, yeah, I just found it so unsettling that people were like excited and that
Oh my
level of
God.
reaction, and it was just like, just shut the fuck up then. Like, if this is what you have to contribute to this conversation and you're not going to dig into it more and you're just going to operate from the perspective of like, no, 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 don't you y'all better stop.
Yeah.
We're just so much better than this. No,
Dude,
we're not.
you know what I loved is speaking of Kyle, he did a segment talking about like this Laura Ingraham clip that's been going around.
Mm-hmm.
And basically it's like Laura Ingraham on Fox News basically wagging her finger, you know, talking about like, why are people so excited about like vigilante justice and shit like that when regarding the CEO? And then she like stops and she presents her next segment, which is about this guy Richard Penny, I think his name is.
Mm-hmm.
He like killed a homeless guy on the subway because he thought the guy was a threat. And like she's like, some people are calling them here, and she's like kind of gleeful about it because they've been on Fox News. They've been like happy about the fact that this white dude basically killed his black man.
Oh
Who's
my
basically having
God.
a health. Yeah, so she's like, yeah, he's a hero. It's like, okay, so it's bad to gun down the guy that we know for sure has had his hands in killing at least 20,000 people a year.
Yeah.
Yet this guy, and we can't be excited about that. But this other guy who just like basically, I think he shot him to death or strangled him, whatever, on the subway,
Holy
vigilante
shit.
style. Like that's a hero. Okay,
That's
like,
a
all right,
hero.
Because he's a filthy, disgusting homeless with no money, you know?
Yeah.
That's clearly the class-based thinking, you know? It's just like,
right.
it's like, oh, well, he's vile and disgusting. And it's like, meanwhile, one of our rich ones.
The Richie Rich. Yeah.
I want to do a side note for the audience. Pat also worked for Ben Shapiro.
Yeah.
Once upon a time.
Yeah.
So
that was another one that I ushered you guys in. But I left of my own accord on that one.
Hey, you were already a legend.
Oh yeah.
I made my legendary animation.
Oh my God. Yeah. I think about that shit sometimes, and I cannot stand Ben Shapiro. Like his voice, his mannerisms, like everything about what that dude represents. Like
he's also just so intellectually dishonest. Like that's the thing that drives me crazy about him.
Terrible.
Is he's lying. I don't even know if he can tell the difference of when he's lying to himself or his audience anymore, because he operates from such a like elusive perspective, and like you could see it like really bad when like the whole Gaza thing is because he's he's very Jewish,
dude. And how hypocritical are we talking about that, man? I mean, Jesus.
Well, when you fired Candace Owens, who listen, I hate Candace Owens, but like her being fired and them not being pro free speech, like they've always said they were, and like, and I've always knew they weren't. Like these people aren't pro free speech. You can't go into Daily Wire and start talking about Medicare for all. Like you have to be on the specific side of the line here. Right. And she breached it. She got axed. But yeah.
Dude, I don't know, man. Like it is terrible, and obviously big money donors, that's the direct cause, you know what I mean? It's like, who is Ben Shapiro? Maybe when he first started getting into like journalism and politics, he was probably like, one of those like idealistic freedom fighters in his own head. And then once you start being popular and then next thing you know, you got big money donors throwing you fucking money like left and right.
I'm not going to say the guy isn't intelligent, like, but he comes from just, look, I think you can be really smart about really stupid things if you want to be. Like, if you want to put the effort into like being the most knowledgeable about any specific thing or how you're going to operate from. And his whole thing is just debate. He doesn't really care if he's right. And that's the whole thing about debate. You don't necessarily have to win the argument. You just have to, what is it? You don't have to win the point and be right. You don't have to defend it and it be factually correct. You just have to win the debate. And you can do that through different tactics. And he's very like purposeful with his intention and how he like sets himself up. And speaks really quick and says a bunch of shit and then tries to throw people off and get him off his scent, but he's just so full of shit,
Oh, he's so full of shit. The latest stuff that he's just been coming out with is just like just mind blowing. You know what I mean? I mean, even the talks about the retirement age to like, dude, you name it. Like these topics are just ridiculous. Like, saying that it's unfair for la da 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 about this retirement. The retirement age needs to be set to like 80 years old, and you being 60 is not a is not an old age, and we live in the times where people are living longer, and it's like, fuck you, dude. Like, fuck you. Like, what are you talking about?
He's such a prick. He speaks from such a place of privilege, and he's just always had that. It's really fucking terrible. Condescending and just stupid. And I just can't believe he has a fucking audience. And his whole thing being facts don't care about your feelings is like the most cringe thing ever. Yeah, because I'm like, you're the biggest crybaby bitch around. You're the biggest bitch.
Oh, dude, for sure. For sure.
Well, that was for sure. When the Gaza thing was going on, it's like you're not a facts over feelings guy. Like, this is clearly feelings based. You love Israel. You want Israel to like own this
stuff. You are not dealing with facts right now.
Yeah, and it's like you're supporting the genocide, which is gross considering like the background of your people. Like,
the Jewish community.
That's this thing that's so sad about the Israel Gaza thing. It's like you got people who are like intimately knowledgeable about the wrongness of genocide, and they're like, that's fucking this there's nothing wrong with this. I'm like, oh god, like if you guys can't figure it out, like what hope does the rest of the world have?
Right. I mean, it's okay to just like mass kill Palestinians and wipe them off the map, and it's like, what are you talking about? Like, how does like any?
It's fine when they're not people, Pat.
It's mind-boggling. It is mind-boggling.
If you can demonize an entire group of people and you can kill
sounds
them,
familiar. Yeah, it sounds real familiar.
That's all you have to do.
I saw somewhere that the IDF has more rules regarding like killing dogs than they do killing Palestinians.
Wow.
Like, you can get in trouble as IDF soldier if you shoot a dog unnecessarily, but if you kill like Palestinian,
but not a child.
No,
not a child.
That's fine.
You can just straight headshot children left and right. That's fine. That's totally good.
Cool.
I mean, yes. I will say Israel 100% is in the wrong. They should be tried as fucking war criminals. You know what I mean? Like, there's some real shit going on. And the US of A needs to stop funding this shit. Like, what the fuck are we doing?
Of the US involved.
Dude, and I mean, like,
it's pretty disheartening. And
it's extremely disheartening.
Disheartening. The what's his name? Shapiro out of Pennsylvania.
Josh
Shapiro. Again, like, Jewish, signing off on gleefully. He's signing bombs with a smile on his face, and then like lecturing people about we don't murder. But it's like, dude, you were happy to go fucking have bombs get dropped on kids' heads. So like, fuck you. Yeah. Fuck you if we're gonna be fucking happy about a CEO who doesn't give a shit about any of us. Like, sorry for his family. That's terrible. Like, nobody should have to lose a father, but like, don't lecture us. We all lose fathers. Like, we've lost it because of your guys' fucking shit. And then you find out they've been complicit in all this. Like, have you been following the whole thing about like how much they knowingly have been poisoning our food? There's literally like, there's just like so much shit of like being linked to cancers, knowingly linked to cancers, all these like red dyes, all these things. And this is the thing. It's like, all these processed things are just like we know they're terrible for us, but it's like they knew, and they were just like, that's fine. So like you compound that on top of a healthcare system that doesn't give a fuck. It's like, hey, that kind of works weirdly hand in hand, doesn't it? Make the population super dependent on super unhealthy stuff. Like, that's addictive. And then obviously they're going to have like health problems. So it's like, we don't trust you, ruling class, CEOs, people who make this decision. So don't expect us to feel bad when something terrible happens to you.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it makes total sense for sure. Obviously we need to model some of our stuff off of like, the European countries, ones that are like
those commies.
Yeah. Doing a fucking thing for their people. We're talking about,
talking about socialism.
Their health, the healthcare system that's set up. And,
Yeah, we need to stop
Thank
demonizing that
God.
notion in the U.S. You know,
Thank God we have RFK coming in though. Because really, I mean, he's just gonna put a stop to all of it. Like
Get that pesky
it.
polio
Yeah,
vaccine
I
off the
mean,
shelf.
yeah. Thank God we have Trump and RFK looking into the vaccinations that are causing autism, and I mean, this is gonna be good. It's like some of this stuff I will say, right? Okay, pesticide being sprayed on all of our crops and everything else, probably a bad thing. We need to look into some of this shit for sure. Monsanto, all of those things, right? Like those are huge things that we should be looking into. What's going into our food, also a huge thing that needs to be looked into. So hopefully some of this stuff will develop in a positive way, and I think that's the hope and desire.
I mean, I'm looking at this next 4 years as just like it's going to be a massive wrecking ball. This is kind of like what they wanted in the first place, and they're going to really get it. I mean, we're all going to get it, and you're going to have to take the good with the bad, and there's going to be a lot of bad, and then hopefully some of the rebuilding will readjust some of this shit. I really do hope so, but it just depends on how much control the conservatives are able to establish and maintain within this next 4 years, because they could really twist some knobs, and democracy doesn't look so democratic after this next 4 years. And the social policy is where I'm really worried, but I do think even RFK, as crackpot as some of his shit is, I think he could do some good for the food industry and holding this shit accountable for the shit they're putting in the food, because I know that is something he actually does care about.
Yeah.
I'm not going to touch the vaccine shit and all that, but when it comes to some of this stuff, I feel like some good change could come, and that's the best I can say for what's on the horizon.
Oh man,
I have no hope for any of that stuff, because listen, I mean, RFK, let's just again move past his crazy vaccine shit. Let's just take him, his good thing. Okay, we need healthier food. You can't go and pal around inside a party that is regulation adverse, and then be we're going to start doing regulations. It's what do you mean? You're you guys are about the deregulation of everything. So RFK's been going there and fundamentally change everything about conservative ideology and be we're going to go into businesses and say you can't make money off of poisoning our water and air and food, and we're going to really put the screws down on these capitalists. That's not happening. There's no way that's happening.
Yeah,
you make a good point. You definitely make a good point, but it's hard to not have at least some sort of hope that there's going to be some sort of good that comes out of something, right? I mean, at this point, it is the most ridiculous thing what we're witnessing now is literally the most ridiculous shit ever, right? I mean, Trump and his fucking mobster friends. You got Dr. Oz and goddamn. I mean, the fucking what? Who was he pointing for the student loans advisory kind of thing with the Ed McMahon's fucking wife and
Ed McMahon.
What?
Vince McMahon's wife. Ed McMahon was the Lifestyles of Rich and Famous. In the voice, your price is right.
Yeah.
That's an old fool, man. Some of these young kids are going to know.
Oh yeah, sorry I misspoke there, but it's oh my goodness, man, it's literally crazy, and it's so hard to even focus on a direct point of issue that you want to talk about at times, because it's wait, what's happening? Here we are again, right back in the cyclone of just colossal insanity,
for me, what difference does it make? At this point, you're getting exploited. It's legitimately the establishment Democrats fumbled the ball so fucking hard in the last 4 years that they're just a ruling class that doesn't give a shit about you, that likes to pretend like they do. This is a ruling class who really doesn't give a fuck and have their own agenda, and they just do the fucking quiet parts out loud. So you're gonna get fucked, and you're gonna get exploited unless we get into a more of a populist mindset like we did after the shooter actually solidified some level of understanding in people's minds. That is the thing, that it's not red versus blue. It's literally ruling class versus populist masses, the unwashed masses, which you are part of.
Caleb, so my question for you on that is all right, so we have this thing that clearly shows there's a connection that we should. There's one thing we can agree on supposedly with the right wing. All right. But like we just had Bernie Sanders run twice, and even back then he was laying out a pretty good case. Like, hey, the healthcare industry, by design, makes their money by denying healthcare, and we should switch away from that. And all we got from not just the right wing media, but like corporate media too, was like, "Oh, Bernie Sanders is a crazy socialist. Like, what's he? He's going to turn us into Venezuela, and all this like shit." And you were right earlier when you were like, these right wingers are like easily distracted by like trans or DEI or like all this other shit. Wokeness, and it's like, do you see them being able to come back in 4 years and like, we should switch at least our healthcare over to like a single payer system?
I was gonna say, but will that?
I don't see, like you need somebody to basically take the mantle from Bernie, which I don't see anyone like in the space right now. But you got to hope a new generation of motivated, people come in and really want to run with that messaging, because that shit worked. It was like people were responding to it, and it was like sabotage from the left. The right was like scared of Bernie. Like I legitimately think if Bernie would have ran against Trump the first time around, he would have won. Like,
of course.
I still think that. And it's just like, it's just disgusting to look back on it. And then both times with Kamala and Hillary, where the Democratic elites, established whatever, were just like, take your medicine. And it's just like, it's so condescending to be like, well, we're going to put this candidate in front of you that it's like nobody really likes except for us, because they're going to toe the line. And meanwhile, you got somebody who has messaging that's simple but effective and consistent, and comes from a place of care. Like Bernie Sanders is a goofball, but he's just like, he doesn't have to say anything else. It's just like, dude, that messaging works, and that's what people want. They want to feel like we have a government that is actually acting in our best interest, and instead, like the Trump did disingenuous populism, and he got people on board, and it was an easy message to sell. It's consistent bumper sticker politics that the right wing presents. It's like, all these woke fucking pussies are out here making your life worse, and these immigrants, I'm going to get rid of them. So like, fuck yeah, look at Joe Biden. He's making your life terrible.
Yeah, well, of course. I mean, you always want to blame the current president for, whatever situation that you are in, especially, like paycheck to paycheck, groceries, all this kind of shit, right? But I mean, like at the end of the day, it's like, we really have to digest each president-elect and see what they really are doing for the country. Now, I think what's going to really ultimately happen is that we're going to let Trump just kind of, do his reign, right? And at the same time, he's gonna fuck some shit up, right? And some people are gonna like still support it because they're diehard MAGA, right? But what happens when they do lose the Medicaid? What happens when Social Security is not a thing? You know what I mean? And then all of a sudden they start going, oh wait, like what Bernie Sanders was saying was actually correct. And I think when he ran, I think it was just before his time, honestly. Like if he would have run now, I think there'd be a lot more support on that kind of situation.
He was like 87 years old, though. He had to go.
He's still as crazy as all could be, man. You know what I mean? And that motherfucker will fight until he's like dead. He'll be on his fucking hospice bed, like.
Bernie Sanders is the Mike Tyson of politicians. Hop in that ring right now.
I'll fight Jake Paul.
Yeah.
No, I really think I think 2016 was his time. I think he was completely robbed. He would have been able to. Those debates would have been amazing. Trump and Bernie Sanders having a debate would have been hilarious, dude.
Oh yeah, we were robbed.
Yeah, we were robbed from such an amazing campaign and what could have been, because, Bernie doesn't give a shit. He's just going to sit there and say the same and probably like get a jab in every now and then because Trump was such a bully, people didn't know how to like deal with him. But Bernie is just like, I don't give a fuck. I've been fighting all of you for my whole career. I'm an independent, just like. It would have just been amazing, but we were robbed, and it was literally like they were doing that shit where states were voting for Bernie, and then they had their electorates like we're like just no, we're gonna do Hillary instead.
Yeah. Sorry, 1 second.
We got a cool sound going there.
Yeah, I muted Pat.
Is he good? He's good.
Yeah. Keep talking. I'm gonna go grab another beer.
Oh, am I back on? No, I was gonna mute myself for a second just because.
Alvin did it. He was like, I can't talk.
I messed it up. My bad.
No,
there's a little bit of smoke. Every time we use the oven, for some odd reason, there's like a bit of smoke. I think it's just because it needs to be cleaned out more. But even though it is clean, I don't get it. There it goes again. I'm gonna check on it.
Go get it. Well, now I'm here by myself, everyone. I wish I had a good story to tell. But, alas, I am alone in my thoughts and my feelings.
Just alone.
I am alone here. I'm trying to keep from, is it dead air? Can't have dead air, dude.
Gonna edit this out. We ain't live right now, but that's good. Getting practice. We should do like a live thing for our two
subscribers that are hanging in there.
Yeah, they've been disappointing.
Yeah. Oh, you missed it. We went out for a bachelor party on Friday.
Oh shit. Well, I wasn't invited.
Yeah, I don't. It was just a weird one. It was organized through it's like giant Russian friend.
Okay.
He makes him look small. And then there was another guy who was like bigger than him, and they were like having a big guy off.
What?
Yeah.
All right. Where'd you guys go?
They wanted to go to this weird spa, and it was like a weird co-ed spa, and it was fine. It's just like a hot room, then cold plunge, and then like they have massages, like and all that, and you're just like hanging out in a robe.
Oh wow! All right, it's pretty cool.
I'm just like, yeah. And then we went to a club after that, but it was just like such a like, oh yeah, this is planned by Russians. It's just like I would not go to a place like that, like of my own.
Russian spa.
I don't think it was Russian, but it felt like, I guess maybe it was Russian because they had like borscht. There's like a kitchen and a bar. You can get like a drink in there. You go up and pay for a massage, like again, like the hot room. They had leaves, like branches or beaten killing with in the hot room, like,
okay.
I forget what they called it, but it's like a very specific thing that's supposed to like raise your temperature. But it was so fucking hot in there, man. I was like, all right, let's do this.
That's really good.
Fucking weird. We were supposed to go to Lake Arrowhead, but that didn't happen. I thought we were doing this and then going to Lake Arrowhead, and I was like, this is gonna be a long fucking weekend, man. But instead, that didn't happen. So I'm glad.
Oh shit!
It was just that.
That's pretty tight. That sounds really tight. Yeah, I hit him up. I was like, hey man, congrats on the engagement and baby on the way. Like, yo. Big things over there.
Who's got a baby? What?
Oh yeah, I guess you don't know. He's gonna be a dad.
No fucking way. That's amazing.
And then him and Jen are getting married
January,
yeah.
19th?
Something like that. I'm gonna be up there for a soccer tournament anyways, and he planned it like around that. And I was just like, all right, but whatever works for you.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to go to it. I don't know if we're going to actually logistically be able to make it, but...
I told him. He said, yeah, Pat said he's in. I'm like, well, we'll see about that.
Well, dude, we want to, man. I really do want to. Yeah,
of course.
Yeah. I mean, really, really do want to. And man, that's amazing. When did this happen? When did they find out?
It was all around the same time. They've been talking about it for a while.
No, I know that. Yeah.
With the proposal, they were trying to conceive too. So, yeah,
dude, that's
a girl.
That is phenomenal. So, when's the due date?
I don't know for sure. It's probably like summer, like early summer.
Damn, that's amazing. That's fucking amazing. That's so good. He told me in
October, like mid-October.
So. I wonder what that means now for them as a family. If they're gonna stay in California or where they're gonna go. I know he keeps
talking about leaving, but I don't think they're gonna go anywhere. She's got all her family out here, and I think he just gets fed up with some of the California bullshit. But Whatever.
Yeah. Well, I mean, such is life, right? Yeah, I understand.
Yeah, like you can't really win. You can go somewhere else and be like bored.
Yeah, go ahead and try and move out of California, bro.
Yeah.
See what happens.
Yeah. Yeah. See if you like it, man. I doubt it.
I doubt it.
That's
I don't
what honestly, that's kind of how I feel a little bit. But
Yeah, I don't know. I've had thoughts like, well, where would I go? And then I'm like, I have no idea. It's like I don't really want to go back to Missouri. I think I would just go crazy if I was there.
dude, you would be like a full form alcoholic at that point. I feel like I don't
Probably nothing else to do.
Yeah. Gotta go to Austin, Texas.
What's there?
Joe Rogan's comedy
freedom.
mothership.
Freedom.
What'd you say? Real.
Freedom.
Oh. Yeah. Okay.
I thought about like if I were to move into like Atlanta.
Atlanta seems kind of dope. A lot of black people.
Yeah, it's pretty much like that. It's like they got like a Hollywood sort of thing building up there.
Oh.
Yeah,
ATL's been on the fucking upswing for like a few decades now, man.
No kidding.
I was down there.
Good food.
I was down there earlier in the year, and it was like, oh, this is a pretty dope area. There was my cousin, and I was like, shit, I could hang out down here.
Okay, I just picture Atlanta being like old Detroit or something. I don't know.
Oh, dude, it's been on the upswing. Like Detroit's I think Detroit's having a slight resurgence these days, but yeah, ATL's like stock price been going up.
Wow.
And it's like a black Mecca city at this point too, which is like dope. And they're just like, I don't know. I want to visit. It seems cool.
I don't know. Would we be allowed to visit, Alvin? What would be the?
It's diverse.
You're allowed, but I have to take you behind the curtains. Atlanta's basically Wakanda, so once you get behind the hologram that makes it look like it's all forest, and then you get behind that and you see it's a metropolis, like that's what Atlanta is. I wasn't supposed to tell you that, but
Any white person you see is actually like they have like holograms to make them actually black.
Oh my God, this place is
illusion
magical.
Of diversity.
The fucking tech is just like light years away.
Like, what? Vibranium everywhere.
I want to check it out. I want to go to Nashville too.
Yeah.
I liked Portland, but Portland was just like a little too weird.
Is it too hipster or what?
You tell Pat your Portland story?
I haven't told that story, but I don't know if we have to get into Portland is like it lives up to a lot of the stereotypes. Like I was on like the dating apps and stuff, and there were so many like ENMs or no ENMs, which is ethical non-monogamy types. And just like everything was like
wait, what is this? Ethical
non-monogamy.
Ethical non-monogamy, which basically means you're polyamorous and you might be coupled with somebody already, but they're open to being like thruples or whatever.
Okay.
So, oh my gosh.
There's like a lot of that, there's a lot of the stereotypical like blue-haired, indignant lesbian. I kept joking with it's like you can feel that this whole city was designed by lesbians. And everyone was just like, yeah, go ahead. It's like the men are like super, like I don't even like to speak in these terms, honestly. It's not really how I think, but it's just like the beta energy from a lot of men was just like on full display. I was like, I just think my dad could beat up every And I loved the city. It was great. It's very unique. It's got its own energy, but it's a little silly sometimes with how far they kind of take it. And it's just like, okay, cool, whatever.
Yeah. Maybe I'm not as progressive as I thought. You know what I mean? Like I'm like, I'm progressive, but then I'm like,
there's a moment where you go wrong though.
Yeah, there's a few things where I kind of draw the line still a little bit where I'm like, wait, what's happening?
For sure. It like made me swing in the other way a little bit. I'm like, I'm super progressive, but I was just like, this is just silly. Come on. It's like, it's too much.
Too much, yeah.
But like, I'll tell you what, like New Orleans is fun. Like, I like that city a lot. Like,
I want to check that out,
But New Orleans is like kind of trashy, but it's kind of like you can embrace it. But I love the live music everywhere. You can just like, there's always so much like going on.
Yeah. What is the music scene like? It's like jazz, blues, kind of like.
You can get that, but then you can get kind of like a standard rock band going. And like so many just bars just have live music going, you know.
So did you do like the
guitar.
famous Bourbon Street, like, you know, bar on every?
Yeah, we did that a little bit, and it's chaotic. Honestly, it's like a bit too much.
Yeah.
But you still kind of have to go through it. But there's some that are like they're happening, but they're a little bit more low key. I like that. But there's just an energy in the air.
Yeah.
And they've got like it's like haunted vibes there, you know, just because of the architecture and the history. And there's like a lot of like you can do like haunted tours, and they'll talk about like the origins of vampires and stuff.
That's pretty
rad.
Like,
yeah, it was a cool story. It's like a lot of it came from this one ship that was like delivering wives to this nunnery, right? And it was like the women were getting sick, and they got like scurvy like on the trip, and they shipped them with tiny wooden coffins because it was like half their means of you know, like it's their duffel bag, you know, they gave them that, and then if they die they can just put them in there. You know, so this was a way they were traveling from I forget, some like Eastern European place, and they were meant to be there for wives because there were so many men there at first. They were just like, we need wives, you know.
Send the wives.
So many of them got sick, and they were like pale and gaunt and looking like half deaths. So like when they showed up in the day, all the men were there, and they're like, well, okay, we can't take these women out because they're so fucked up. Like,
oh my God.
Out, you know. So the nuns like took them off the ship in the middle of the night, and they were all looking like vampires, and somebody saw this and started reporting it as like, these are evil women and blah blah blah. And so like this is one of the many like legends that grew in that city while you know,
weird,
its early
man.
formative years.
I can imagine like being so horny that you have to like ship over like a fleet of women, and then once they get there being like, I don't know if I'm that horny. Like, how bad did these women look? So we were just like, yeah, I'm okay with that.
It's so funny though, because back then it's like somebody had to write a letter because so many guys were like, we're too horny. We're too horny. There's no women here. It's like, all right, I'm going to write a letter to the king and be like, send over some child brides. I got a lot of horny dudes over here.
Jesus
mutiny if you don't do it. So if you talk about progress, we've come a long way.
Yeah, I'm thinking to myself, like, okay, actually we've done pretty well. Like, yeah. Jesus Christ.
One thing, the wealth inequality, this was like a weird stat I saw, was what was the French time when they started chopping off heads? It's the let them eat cake era.
Like French Revolution.
Yeah, like our wealth inequality is on par with where it was during the French Revolution, and they started like, you know, chopping off the you know, royalties' heads. So just to put things in perspective, you know, like another thing to be like, yo, like this is just history repeating itself. You don't fucking course correct, you know.
Yeah. The 1%.
You can't live in your glass house forever, you know. Your tower of ivory and pretend like the rules don't apply to you.
Yeah. Alvin, did you see that that graph that Kyle had on his podcast? You know, the graph of pretty much where the displaces of wealth, you know, it goes from like the 1% to, you know, where the wealth is with most common, you know, workers. And it's just like astronomically insane. It's insane.
I don't know if they've been updating it, but yeah, that's the type of thing that was coming out during like Bernie's first run, like in 2016. It was like,
right.
And that's why I'm kind of annoyed by some of the glee. Like, if you guys really felt this way about you know, we're getting fucked. We're getting fucked in so many ways, like inflation. I mean, just think about the inflation. It's like, yeah, we had an issue during COVID. The travel lines for like imports and stuff got kind of displaced, and things were messed up. But there's like video and audio of like CEOs and executives being like, yeah, well, we're going to use this as an excuse to just jack prices up
to keep them high.
And even without all that, it's like, when are people going to learn about, like, I'm a capitalist, okay, and I'm, you know, I'll say that, but I'm someone that right. But I'm someone that understands that there is a fatal flaw, just like in every system, that, you know, humans will take something and pervert it. And capitalism in its like rawest, most perverted form is to extract as much money as you can from one side and put it into your pocket. And if you're someone that understands that we can't just like print money or whatever, so that means we have a finite amount of money. And if one person's collecting it, that for every dollar they collect, that's a dollar you
can't have.
Definitionally cannot collect.
Right.
So if you have all these like billionaires and we're close to getting a trillionaire,
Yeah.
I think Elon Musk is not very far behind on being our first dollar trillionaire.
Yeah.
It's like that you can't sustain that. He's sucking up all the money, and that means you can't make as much money, and prices are going up because CEOs have to, by law, quarter over quarter, try and make more money than they did the quarter before. So it's like insanity. Like we can't do this. We have to figure out a way. But when are people going to understand that?
Well, that's the thing that like the whole notion of, that graph's always going to go up. We're always going to see green, like no matter what. It's like at a certain point, you don't have any more moves. You're just literally stealing every bit of money. You saw it, like all of the streaming services, they go up like every other year now. And it's like, why does that need to happen? Oh, because number has to go up. We have to have, more, and it doesn't make any sense. The inflation is, like I feel like maybe 10-15% of the inflation was actually necessary, and then the rest of it was just greed, and they were just like, we're gonna exploit the shit out of this situation. And it's like COVID's been over. The supply chains have been reset, and I really think they underreport the amount of actual inflation that took place, because they would be like, it was 5%, but it was like 15% or whatever. And I'm like, bullshit, man. I go and get groceries for me just to eat for like a week or two, and it's like double, if not triple, how much it used to be. So you're going to say that's a 2%, 5%, 7%? What are you trying to say that is when I'm paying double to triple the amount I did 5-10 years ago,
For sure. 100%. I mean, and that was the whole reasoning why Kamala had come out and said, like, I'm going to make it so groceries, these people that, the privatized grocery companies and whatnot cannot, take that into and like rule that over your head and be like, well, we're going to keep the prices up here because that's where it is, more profit for us. No, you know what I mean? Like, and that is a knowing thing that's happening in today's society, is that they are literally making tons of money off of the working class. And that's just going to be a forever problem until someone steps in and says, no, you can't do that. Period.
Well, and that's the problem with like the capitalistic mindset. It's like a company can't just sit on its laurels and be like, hey, we're a successful company. Like, oh, like, you know what? We didn't make as much, but we're still profitable. They're like, no, we have to make more every single year. That's unsustainable. That you cannot just like consistently do that. Like, it really, like, something has to shift. Like, there is a breaking point. And when you see something like this happen with the CEO shooting, it's like, well, there's a part of the breaking point, and I'm not saying it's right, but I understand it. And for you to pretend like you can't understand it is infuriating. Like, when people operate from that perspective, it's like, no, you're fucking spreading people too thin. Like, people need, like, to me, it's psychological in the way that, like, if you don't have, it's like everything, you're like one terrible thing away from feeling like you could live on the streets sometimes, like you can't live that way.
No.
And they can't relate because they don't have that level of dread in the back of their mind through like the financial insecurity that you get to live through like your entire American experience. Like, and meanwhile, we're the wealthiest country in the world, and you feel like you're just inconsequential and could end up on the streets. I mean, granted, we all have some safety net, but that comes from community and the people that you know. That's not like something you can build for yourself.
Right. Well, and that's only us talking, right? Like, that's not.
I think that's the.
We're doing better than a lot of people too.
Oh, for sure. But that to me is kind of the consistent lived experience for like a lot of people. Paycheck to paycheck living, and it's like I'm doing okay, but I still feel that, and I'm probably always going to feel that unless something really like significantly changes, like in my life, financially, because like that is
there
that
has
fucks
to be.
with you.
There has to be some sort of there has to be some sort of redistribution of wealth that has to happen. I mean, I'm an idealist in the way of a capitalistic society for sure, but there should be a way for any small business or business owner to want to grow and become profitable and so on and so forth, right? Like, that is great, and there shouldn't be direct control over that from the government, but at the same time, you cannot have the distribution of wealth be so drastically different to where it's a failing society, and that doesn't make any sense. Even as a CEO, how would that ever make sense for you to then capitalize on such a profit margin to where you're putting everyone out of work and they can no longer buy said product? Like, what? There is no profit margin then. You know what I mean? It's bonkers. Like, it doesn't make any sense.
It's unreasonable. It's unsustainable.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you add in like the extra sinister level from like the healthcare industry, which is like, okay, you go to a regular, company, you buy a thing, they give you that thing, they make money off the top, whatever. Okay, we're okay with that. But with healthcare, it's like, okay, you buy health coverage, right? With the understanding that if and when you need that shit, they will come and cover you. But they really make their money from denying you coverage. So it's almost to the point where if you were to go to McDonald's, normally you pay for a burger to give you a burger. But it'd be like if McDonald's like business model was to forget to throw in the burger patty. If you came at the wrong moment or something, and there's nothing you can do about it. Like it's in such a sinister sort of like, wait a second, we're not exchanging money, goods and services, where you're scamming me.
Well, yeah,
that's what's happening here, and you're making billions of dollars doing it, and it's legal somehow.
Yeah, and the nefarious, faceless nature of it drives me crazy too. It's like you've got this weird middleman between you and this thing that you need access to,
right?
And it's like they don't have to be fully accountable, and they will use every loophole imaginable to just avoid, deny, deflect, whatever. We're on the fucking bullets there, like it's just it's nefarious. It's sinister. It's not okay, and you can't keep operating like that. It's just.
I feel the same about every insurance program. I think it is all
car insurance. Yeah,
it's a bunch of bullshit, And the worst part is that they force you to have it. You know what I mean? Like, what the fuck? And then there's people, like, you get in a fucking car accident for one, and then all of a sudden that person doesn't have it, right? Well, they could get penalized at the end of the year. And then all of a sudden they're like, well, I don't know. Like, sucks, bro. Like, you're fucked. Like, your car's done. Oh, wait, you didn't have the gold package. You know what I mean? Like, oh my God, man. Like, seriously? Like, it's just a racket, man. It's a racket.
I mean, that sort of metaphor I can think, it's literally like everybody is getting like pushed to the edge of a fucking cliff, right? And you just keep getting pushed closer and closer, and you're going, I don't have any more room. I'm going to fall off the cliff. And they're just like, yeah, well, that's not really my problem, is it? And it's like, you're the one forcing us to the edge of the cliff here, so like,
oh, totally.
And it's like, you have space. There's plenty of space. There's plenty of opportunity for us all to have enough to live healthy lives, and to not feel like we're on the edge of disaster every fucking second,
Yeah. I mean, and both sides, definitely agree with the argument that there is a direct problem with our healthcare system and that needs to be addressed. I mean, even JD Vance fucking said it, you know what I mean? Like, he openly said, like, yeah, when I had a baby, it cost me $15,000. I got a bill for 15 grand. And he's like, and luckily enough, he's like, we were able to pay that, no problem. And I'm thinking to myself, like, people don't have an extra $15,000 sitting around. You know what I mean? Like, that shows like his own privilege in that point of being like, you are like one of the lucky ones, man. Because everyone else would be like, I guess I'm going to do monthly payments if I can, or, I'm going to have to take out a loan, and that loan's going to have a high interest rate, and that's going to fuck me because of my credit score. You know what I mean? And it's all systematically just like mind-boggling setup. Yeah, of course, to keep you down, keep them up. Like, you'll never ever be able to bridge the gap, and that is a fucking problem.
And by design,
yeah, that is a problem.
Not like the idea of like, yeah, you can make it. Like, you can make it. Some people do make it. There are ways, but like, I had this one take that I thought was one of the dumbest things. He's this Bitcoin guy. His name's Anthony Pompanopoulos or something. They just call him Pomp. And on the Fox News business segment, he just talks about Bitcoin and hypes it up and shit. And he was just like, they asked him about the killer, and he was just like, his take was so fucking stupid and so delusional that I actually was like, I have to comment on this. And if I'm feeling the need to comment on a YouTube, I'm like fucking fired up. I'm like, how stupid are you? I'm like, you know what? Just take a second, write it out, don't send it, and do that. But he was like, this is the thing about a free market capitalistic system. If you don't like it, go out there, invest your capital in things that matter, and then make a new healthcare system. And it's like, are you like, what are you saying? Go start an insurance company because of America's perfect capitalist system? Like, it's so easy. Like, oh, are you saying the thing that's bothering you is you have no money? Oh, start an insurance company. Like, that's how it works. It's like, shut the fuck up. That's
part of the problem.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's start 330 million insurance companies. That way we all can be CEOs of one, and it's easy. Like, insure yourself.
It's no problem then. Yeah.
But yeah, Pat. Here's the thing though, and again, I love Bill Burr, and something I was listening to him talk about this too. But yeah, both sides see these problems. I feel like Americans, we've never had a real issue seeing problems. Okay,
right.
The problem for us come election time is like the solution. It's like we can say here, oh yeah, we got healthcare is an issue, or jobs, whatever is going on, and one side's like, okay, cool, let's go ahead and pull some of this money down from billionaires because they're making way more money than they should, just as a percentage. Like, one side would say that, and then another side is like, well, probably these fucking immigrants, like doing something to fucking trans our kids or whatever it is. It's like, okay,
blame it on the most marginalized communities out there.
Yeah, the weakest people. They can't get into the country legally, but they can somehow screw things up financially in a way that's widespread. So it's like, how do we get people to not dive into that, and also not 50-50 it, that it was a thing a lot of people do is they're always like, well, both sides are wrong. And look, I'm not a Democrat. I think they have their problems, but clearly, like, Republicans are worse, right? Like, I just feel like we have to know where to lay the blade. All right, there's if we're talking like guillotines, we need to know whose neck to put on there. And we can't do that by being like, oh, this is 50-50.
Sure. I think it's just the genuine misinformation that is constantly being broadcasted out. You know what I mean? We would say, yes, there's a problem with Fox News or whatever. I mean, streaming platforms, Joe Rogan, whatever, you know what I mean? But at the end of the day, it's like people definitely need to understand what's true and what isn't true. And that's always been the biggest problem, right? Like the general amount of misinformation that is out there and who's lying and who's not lying, is like impossible to really journal and update the American people on. The only thing that's going to happen is like a direct, like, what would make it so direct is it literally taking away, like I said, Medicare, Medicaid, watching these things just vanish and people being like, what the fuck? Then you have mass hysteria. What happens then? Who's to blame? You know what I mean? And so, and that's always going to go to the person that's in power, and if that is the Republican, then everyone's going to blame the Republicans, right? Oh, this is what? Well, that actually triggers someone's mindset to say, like, what? Maybe I don't agree with those platforms that they run on, right? But
the thing is, they muddy the water so well. You look at a lot of like the base Republicans who like hate Obamacare, and then they'll be like, yeah, but don't take away my Affordable Care Act.
Right.
That is Obamacare. You just don't even know it.
It's
That's
painful.
So good.
That's fucking painful, man. It's so painful. I know. And that's what's, getting back, even to the whole side of the immigration, you know what I mean? And this whole idea that we're just letting in murders and rapists and everyone's out to grab your daughter and kill them, it's blasphemy. It's completely insane. And it's on this level of like, how many of these illegal immigrants are doing the jobs that the American people don't want to do, yet paying tax dollars into the state, into the federal level, guaranteeing that the Social Security is there, guaranteeing that Medicare is still a thing, on these social platforms. And then you have someone that comes in and says, well, let's eliminate that, right? Well, they don't understand what they're eliminating. They're eliminating the goddamn thing that's fucking helping them. Exactly. helping the
California
American
farmers
working.
are already sounding the alarm. They're like, if you deport half of these people, we're
We're
not going to
fucked.
have workers. Like, legitimately,
Yeah,
like
you'll see
most
Well, they're like,
Americans do not want to do this type of work. It's very hard, and like,
and they're like, well, they'll do it, but they'll do it for like 4 times the wage.
Yeah.
And per the rules of capitalism, that means your groceries now go up
comes
four
out of our
times.
pockets.
Yeah. So, and that's the other thing with the tariffs too. Is like Trump's like, oh, I'm gonna put tariffs and everything. It's like, buddy, do you not know what tariffs are for?
Yo,
Like,
dude,
tariffs
yeah.
are to explicitly raise the prices on imported goods on us. So,
I think we'll see the stock market go crazy for a year or two, and then it's just going to be a fucking crash, dude. It's going to be fucking bad too. I think.
It's just crazy to, I mean, like Trump has a very, very good way of persuading anyone, right? Like, he talks on this level where he just consistently says the same thing over and over and over again until you're just like, that has to be true, right? I mean, it has to be. And, his idea of this whole like tariffs are going to save the country and this and that. And for, I would say, a good portion of the American population, we don't really understand how tariffs work, right? We don't understand how trade works. We don't understand import, export, what that is, what that does, And so the idea of a tariff, and when he just says the word tariff and he says you're going to have more money in your pocket, you make that direct connection and go, well, dude, tariff everything. Yeah. And then it's like, yeah, we're going to bring jobs back to the States because we're no longer importing from said company. And it's like, yeah, I want to like build cars here again. And it's like, right, but where do you get the fucking steel? Where do you get where do you get these raw goods that we need that we've already diminished from our own country? Like, and that's the issue too. Like, I think the whole idea of it is great, right? Like, yeah, let's fucking get it back to the U.S. Let's make it U.S. proud, and we are gonna just like boom our own country. We will stand on our own. We will be self-sufficient. That is like the American patriot. What's up? We are the best of the best. But is that realistic? No, it is not. It is not. And you can't just do that like this, right? Like you're talking like fucking years and years and years and years. I mean, how much are you gonna like just like bleed the people in order to like have this whole like we are the United States of America? Like come on, guys. Like
Also,
it's a facade.
Yeah, I mean,
all it is to pull the blinders over your eyes and make the rich even richer and the fucking poor even poorer and no longer have that separation of classes, So I don't know.
I will say, like, I do think like Donald Trump in his mind has best of intentions when it comes to like him wanting to make America quote unquote great again. Like in his world, in his like he's gonna do that,
Right.
But like we all don't agree with like how he's going to execute that, and like so many of the problems and what he's pointing at, aren't to me like the actual problems, like again blaming marginalized people and woke ideology and all this, like that to me is just a way to mask like so many of the problems and to muddy the water. But the notion of like what patriotism is in this country is so fucking insane at this point, like because like I just like it's like what is it to people? It's like literally like they got so into the Trump camp of like this, I'm being patriotic because I'm supporting Donald Trump. But
Right.
it's like we've gotten so far away from like what patriotism used to mean in this country. Right. And like now I just think it's so muddied and literally like people throw it around in the same way. It's like the inverse woke thing where it's like woke can just basically be, a blanket statement for anything you don't like or want to deal with ideologically. You're like, I'm not even going to have a conversation about that pussy ass woke shit. And it's like, well, that's convenient. I'm a patriot. And it's like, wow, you just said two things where it's like, well, I guess we've got this whole conversation covered. Let's move on. And, like, it gave everyone the ability to just not have to think any harder than they want to, like, and with that whole thing of like the tariffs, it's not just some magical cure-all solution.
No.
When you throw it around, it's like, I'm a patriot, fuck that woke shit, I'm gonna tariff everything. America. It's like that's pretty much like the whole
Well,
thing, and that's where everyone's at with it.
they want to cut ties, and be like, yeah, we don't want to depend on China, we don't want to depend on Mexico, like, and in direct cause and effect of like Mexico immigration, fuck that, like, yeah, cut them off, and then you go, wait, but there's so much that we're like importing from fucking Mexico, like,
Dude,
there's
Mexico's dope.
oh, dude, like it's just crazy on a whole nother level. And I always thought it was always hilarious. If you go to any Harley dealership across America, you can find all of these so-called patriots in there, and you can have great discussions with them about what it is to be an American, right? You ride an American hog and this and that. And I love the ideology of it all, and being like, man, I want to be this like fucking bearded patriot dude who's like so hardcore, like I'll chew on fucking glass, and you know what I mean, and I light a cigar at the same time,
Don't tread on me.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's great, right? Like, yeah, I feel like I'm an American at that point, dude. But there's so much flawed
such a disconnect from the reality of what that is, like.
I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? It's like, I was staying with my brothers. And I'm like, okay, well, your brother is laying on the ground over there because he can't fucking eat. Like, so what's up with that?
Because a system has failed him and left him out to rot.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
We basically are like, we're not going to do anything to fix that.
Yeah, no.
Care,
They're like, well, it's not my fucking problem. I'm like, well, okay.
If he dies or gets choked by somebody, he shouldn't have been mentally insane and like falling out of the support. It's like, okay, but if a CEO gets shot, like, what the fuck?
What the fuck, right? Yeah, I don't know, man. There's too many disconnects, and it's really hard to like paint a picture to where everyone can understand it on a level to where everyone can get behind it. And you would think it'd be so easy, especially on the sense of like, hey, I want more money in my pocket. And it's like, yeah, dude, so do I. And it's like, we all agree on that, right? Everyone agrees on that fundamental issue. Yeah. So why is it so hard to see why that is?
But that's where, like, like I feel crazy half of the time, like in the American experience, because it feels so like cold and just really delusional, and there's so many like false correlations that happen. And again, to bring it back to the shooter, it's like they're already trying to paint him as like he's crazy. There's been like these people who are like, well, we have to check in to see if he even is. So you have to like establish this whole narrative. And it's by design. Like, you're not going to like dive into, the fundamental complaint that every single person almost can connect with. And instead you're going to try to paint the picture like, oh, he's just crazy, clearly. And it's like, are you crazy if you can see that this crazy system is designed to fuck you and like doing something like
and you react in a way that's like if you're being fucked royally by a system, why wouldn't you react this way?
Yeah. Like, in a weird way, it's like it's almost more rational than a lot of the shit that we just have to sit there and kind of go, yeah, okay, because nobody's talking about the real problems. Or if they do, they just yell about it and they don't offer solutions. So nothing changes, and we just sit here getting mad at each other for being on a different fucking team, red versus blue. And stuff. Like, it's these people up here fucking you. And you saw their reaction and how scared they got when finally, like, somebody was like, you know what, I'm going to take some action in my own hands, like, fuck this shit. And I'm just like, I can't believe it hasn't happened sooner,
I mean, that's true. That's 100% true. I know that they
are trying. I'm not going to do it because that's fucking.
Don't say.
I'm not saying anyone should.
No.
But I'm saying I understand it. Yeah. It's not that confusing.
Yeah.
Don't act confused.
They try to discredit him multiple times. I mean, even coming out and saying like he wasn't even he wasn't. What's the word? He wasn't involved with United Healthcare, right? That wasn't his insurer, is supposedly what they said, right? From I forget some report from New York.
It's funny too because that guy's politics are like all over the place, and they wanted to like paint him as some sort of left wing loony, and he's like,
but then he like follows Elon Musk and all this other shit,
He's got all this shit, and it's just like, and they've tried so many things to just paint this picture of him, because they just don't want people to be like, to treat him like a hero, which I'm not saying he's a hero, but I'm saying what he's done has like, you let the cat out of the bag a little bit, and it's changed a lot of minds and realization of like, I'm not the only one who feels this way.
Right.
Because a lot of the American experience can be so isolating, and when you do feel like you're on shaky ground, it's scary. You feel alone, and you feel like, oh man, the earth's gonna fall out from under me at any second.
Oh, totally.
You're still getting pressed down by a system that doesn't care about you.
Right. I mean, the old issue was, the big draw from being HMO and PPO. You know what I mean? And who's in your network and not in your network, and all that shit still plays into the whole tie of, who's denying you care and not. And that's a fucking scandal in its own self. You know what I mean?
So
there should be no HMO,
for
PPO.
No reason.
Great point.
Yeah. It's terrible.
Overly complicated. In other countries, you just go to the hospital and then you fucking get care.
Right.
You don't have to like go through all these weird fucking things and then go over here and then go over here and then figure out, can I even get this? Oh, this thing could save your life. There was another thing that I saw that was like, there was a medication that they knew helped kids not have seizures, but they couldn't fucking give it to the kids unless they started having seizures. But they knew, like, the insurance provider set up a basically thing that the kids had to start having seizures to get the fucking medicine, when it's already like, it's like set up. It's like, no, we know like you're going to have seizures and you're going to do it. But the system was so exposed. They're just like, no, they have to have the seizures to give them the medicine. It was weird. I'm not like doing connecting the dots as well as I can, but essentially it was just another example of just like, why is a system like this?
Totally.
Like making it one step more difficult than it needs to be to get the preventative care, like.
No, I agree. And I'm not saying that hospitals, I guess, shouldn't be profitable, right? I mean, when you talk about profit margins and stuff, but there has to be like a sustainable profit margin that, saying doctors should be paid. It's like no one's ever trying to argue the fact that like doctors shouldn't be paid a wage that is worth whatever a doctor, should be paid, right? Like, I mean, like that, yeah, you got to have like 10, 12 years of schooling, like fucking.
But the doctors are kind of slaves to the system too.
Oh, 100%.
They get bent and have to fit into the insurance provider's thing to make sure they get
definitely.
Paid. But again, it's just like, it doesn't have to be this way. There are proven models in developed countries that work, and people get access to healthcare. Instead of thinking of it as it needs to be profitable, it needs to be sustainable. It needs to be set up in a way that like allows it to save lives and to like benefit all of humanity.
How many people will, if they need an ambulance, will not call because it costs them like $2,000 out of pocket for a fucking ambulance ride? You know what I mean?
It's insane.
That's
insane. Why would it ever need to cost that much? There was one, this guy got hit by a fucking ambulance, and then the ambulance took him to the fucking hospital, and then they charged him with a fucking bill.
Jesus Christ. Wow.
That's some sitcom shit right there. Like, come on, man.
Dude.
What are we doing,
Dude, right? I mean, it's crazy. It's so crazy.
But that's also a good point, too, Pat. It's like, okay, well, there's difference between profit and making it money, right? So if you're a doctor, like the money you get paid is your salary. You just get paid this amount. The profit is after all the salaried employees are paid. The money left over is profit, and that goes to shareholders who don't treat people. Right. They don't change bed sheets.
No,
they don't
do
diagnose shit. They don't do anything except for collect money, and it's like that's where all the waste is. And I'm not even saying. Well, actually, I am saying they probably that boardroom shouldn't exist. That stockholder room shouldn't exist because they do nothing but take money off the top.
I agree.
Make everything cost.
Doesn't go back into the system. This is a third-party entity that exists outside of the healthcare system.
Correct.
That just is there to be a faceless middleman that exploits the system and exploits the people who are forced. You are often forced into this situation. It's not like you go to the doctor because it's like, sometimes it's just like I'm getting checked in. Other times, like something's seriously wrong. I have to be here, or I'm going to die.
Oh, definitely.
And that's despicable. That
it is
somebody
despicable.
Literally like a faceless entity is over there profiting off of suffering.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I mean, and it breaks down to the simplest of the HMO, PPO plans and all that, and gold, silver. I remember when my boss, when I was working flooring, had a stroke on the job, and I was like, holy shit, So I called 911.
You were there?
Yeah,
okay.
I was literally there with him. Yeah. I called 911. 911 shows up, and they're like, "You got to get in the ambulance," and I'm like, "What the fuck?" I had terrible anxiety, and I was like, "You want me to get in the ambulance with him?" And they're like, "No, just sit in the front seat." And because they only had like 2 guys on staff, one guy was with him in the back of the ambulance, and the one guy was the driver. I had to be the guy in the passenger seat to let the driver know that there was no one coming from the right side of traffic, so he could just like blaze through the lights, dude.
What
It
the
was,
fuck?
dude. It was intense, dude. Like intense. So, anyways, and I get the phone call, and it's from his wife, and she's like, "What's happening?" I'm explaining everything, and meantime, he's like, "Am I clear to the right?" And I'm like, "Yeah," and I'm like, "Holy shit." And she's like, "Make sure that they take him to this hospital because we don't have insurance with this hospital."
Right.
And I'm like, "What?" And I'm like, "Hey, the wife says to take him here," and he's like, "No, not happening. He's not going to make it." And I'm like, "The driver says he's not going to make it. We got to go to this hospital." Dude, it was intense. And like we got to the fucking hospital because it was, so much closer to the other one where he was insured. Mm-hmm. And they were like, "Dude, it literally saved his life," right? Because there was a short amount of time that you can get someone to said hospital. But like, let's look at the fact if I didn't call 911 and I called his wife, and then we were like, "Hey, because of insurance, we need to take him to this other hospital." He would never have made it.
Yeah.
Ever. He would have died.
That's an insane thought that you have to have in that moment.
Yeah.
No. Go there. It's like, his life is
like you're fighting for your life, but yet you're thinking about your finances.
Your finances and how it's going to bankrupt you.
Yeah, and your bankruptcy is overriding your urge to survive.
Yeah. Like
what's your life after that? It's fucked.
How insane is that? It's so insane. I think about that time every once in a while, and I'm like, how fucking crazy, it's just so crazy. You put a fucking dollar price on someone's, live or die situation like that. It's nuts. It's nuts. Yeah.
This is so weird. Like, this makes me
get some wrap up thoughts, guys.
I think you should leave skit where the fucking weird pig is breaking into his house, and he's like, "I thought it was a monster," and then he's like, and my first thought was like, "I hope it kills me." And he just was like, "What have they done to us? What have they done to us?"
I thought I was gonna be eaten. My first thought was, I don't have to go to work tomorrow.
But that's how it feels, You're just like, I've felt many times where it's like I don't have a future, just because it's like I didn't see a financial road forward. And you talk about like declining birth rates and things like this, like where it's like a lot of people feel this way, and even if they can't articulate it, maybe in the back of their head, it does hold them back, So when an entire system doesn't have an on-ramp for you to be successful and to feel like you could sustain a family or whatever, like it's demoralizing. It's consistently just psychologically, like you're up against a violent system. So like when people act out in violence, like don't act surprised, like do better, ruling class. You live in a different world than the rest of us.
Yeah. I mean, and I think ultimately, this is the best thing that people can do with no direct solution or power to say like change things is to talk about it. Talk about it. Get with other people that align with you, and even if they don't align with you, but you can still hold the conversation. Because like the more, I mean, it's like a proven factor of let's say the universe, right? The more that we are aware of it, the more that is a possibility of change. It's like the red car effect. How many times have you seen a red car? And then you're like, wait, I don't ever see a red car. And now that I mentioned red car, you're gonna see like a million red cars. You know what I mean? So it's I think it's in that same philosophy a lot of times. Like, the more that we get the chance to talk about issues, the more that I think we should talk about issues,
Well, and it's also correctly identifying the source, like again, like the last however many months of politics has just driven me crazy because all anyone wants to talk about is shit that really is inconsequential, and they're acting like it's the biggest fucking problem in the world. True. Like throwing a fit about a fucking trans athlete fucking competing. It's like that affects such a small margin, and it's like that's their problem to sort out within that sporting organization. So like, why are you getting so fucking worked up when you've got literal, financial oppressors that it doesn't matter if they're fucking red or blue? It is this ruling class that is making your life worse. It's not this fucking homeless person. It's not these marginalized communities. Like, get your head out of your ass and stop acting like such a fucking sheep. Like, wake up and stay in the fucking cut and know what the fuck you need to look at and who your enemy is. It's not your neighbor.
That's true.
Yeah,
that's true.